Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Power Within podcast. I'm your host, Laurie. Today, I'm going to do another segment for my single in my 30s. And this time, I wanted to talk about dating dilemmas and struggles in your 30s. And I've had some interesting things that have happened. And, I was like, maybe this would be a great way to, share some experiences with people, but also, talk about some of the important factors when it comes to dating. So I haven't dated in a long time, and that was because I was working on fixing myself, and I was perfectly fine by that. I didn't love myself, so there was no way that I was going to be able to love anybody else. And my prior relationships were just terrible, and they were like, it's just not something I want to go into, but those relationships were ended for reasons. And so as I've gotten to know myself and to love myself, I know what I'm worthy of. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. So I'm very happy that I just haven't settled and, just gone with anyone just to have somebody. But in doing that also, it's made it a little bit difficult. So one thing that I will say is that I've discovered that, especially now, if it happens, it happens great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, I'm at the point where it is what it is. And if it's meant for me, then that's great. If it's not, fine. I'm not going to force anything. I'm not going to settle. And that is something that I think is so important for everyone to, make sure that they are following as well, because so many people just settle and the relationships don't work, and there's not that passion and that, love and everything that you really hope for in a partner. And personally, for myself, I know what I bring to the table, and I know that, I am a really hardworking, I am driven, I have goals, I'm creative, I step out of my comfort zone, I'm not afraid to try new things. I think it's really important to know how to, cook my own food, grow my own food, be independent, understand financial situations. And so for me, I've spent so long getting all of that in order. So I know what I do and don't want. And obviously, there is some level of attraction needed to somebody to want to have a relationship. So I finally decided, in the last little bit, that I was going to be open to the possibility of a partner. And there's been some interesting things that happen, and I wanted to share this too, because I think, especially in your 30s, it's really hard. A lot of people in their 30s are already married or settled, or they have families, or they're divorced and there's kids and all those different scenarios involved. And I've actually had a couple encounters and situations, and I actually, it's been interesting, because I'm not opposed to if someone has kids from a prior relationship. That doesn't bother me at all. I think kids are a blessing. I don't look at them as a baggage. So that is not a determining factor in if you want to date somebody. I do have hard limits on if, they don't want any more kids or anything. It's not something I'm going to try and change their mind about. It's something that I potentially want. So if someone already is hard set on that they don't want that, then there's no use, even trying, because we already want different things, and everyone's on their own journey. And I found that if you don't try to change people, that's when it's going to work the most, because, I'm someone who asks a lot of questions, and I can be stubborn at times, and I can be inquisitive, and I want to, I do want to ask questions, and I want to learn. Some people will find that annoying or whatever, but I always want to learn and I want to grow. Like, if I can spend a day, every day learning something new, to me, that is what growth is all about. That's what makes life great, just getting up and saying, oh, I learned something new today, and so that's what I strive for in my life. And I'm very creative, and, I look for that in a partner. I want someone who's creative, and someone who's funny, and someone who's, adventurous and someone who's hardworking and driven and knows what they want. And sometimes that can be a little bit, when I have those, I'm not going to say expectations, but they're my standards and I won't compromise on that. So I'm not meeting anyone at bars because I'm just not out at bars and clubs. That's not my scene in my later 30s. Realistically, I just got no business there. I don't mind dancing. I like dancing, but I have not had luck with bars before, and it's not something that I'm really interested in. I actually don't drink often myself, so that's not my scene. And I have not bumped into Mr. Right while I am at the grocery store buying my kale and celery and all of that stuff, so it is very hard to meet people. I've gone out to rallies and things, but I tend to find a lot of couples, and that's great too. But that's, again, I'm like a third wheel. So I've been left to try an online date and be set up. So a couple things about that. If you're going to let your friends set you up, you really, really, really need to trust them or know their style. Or, I had trusted a friend to set me up on a blind date, and she raved about this guy, that he was amazing and he was wonderful and he was great with kids and all this stuff. And so I said, okay, I'll go on a date with him. So we had plans to meet up for lunch, or a later afternoon, dinner, lunch, brunch, whatever you want to call it. And so I showed up to the restaurant. That's where we were meeting. And he showed up. He was drunk already. He had been out with his friends, and he let me know that he had already had a 6-pack. And I was like, oh, okay. So we went in, they were full. And so he's like, let's just sit at the bar. And I was like, okay, I don't really drink much, but okay. So we had a drink, and so he paid for the drink, and then dinner came, and I was like, okay, good. We'll sit down, we'll have a meal, we'll talk, and have some water. And dinner, it didn't go great. Like, I just from the moment that I met him, I was like, this just isn't my energy. But I was like, let me just give it a try, and let that be that. Well, when dinner was finished, he, when the bill came, he slid it along the table to me and told me not to forget to tip. And I was flabbergasted. I was like, I don't care about paying for myself, whatever. But I'm someone also, like, if you're going to go out on a first date, like, I want a gentleman. And it's not that I expect men to pay for everything, but when you're going out on a first date, I think that there's something so, like, wonderful about a gentleman, taking that initiative to pay and that he wants to be there. So that was a disaster. And then I was like, okay, I'm leaving, and he was like, can we hang out? 'Cause I still can't drive. And so obviously here's me going, I don't want him to get into his vehicle and drive, he's still not fully sober. And so, I'm thinking of the families that are on the road getting ready to come out for dinner with their families. And it was a busy, busy time. So I drove him around for an hour, got him coffee and water. And then when he seemed like he was, better, I brought him back to his car and I dropped him out. And he's like, this was a really good date, and I would love to go out again. And I was like, yeah, it's never happening. So, I'm just going to be straightforward. So if you go out on dates and you don't feel it, like, don't feel pressured to go out on a second date, even if it's friends of friends. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. And I've had friends try to set me up since, and I'm like, no, like, if you want to do like I think what would be better is, like, if you want to all do like a group thing where you get together and, if you have people that you think might mesh well or whatever, do that. But doing individual dates, unless you're really 100% confident and that those people are going to get along, or it's going to be a match, I just won't do it. Like, for me, like, when people are like, oh, I know someone who might be good for you, I'm like, no, like, if you want to have like a get together or something, that's fine, but that's it. And then with online, so I've had some interesting bad situations with online. I don't even know if I'd say bad, but they've been deterrent a bit. And so one thing that I want to tell people is be very careful with people online and be very clear of your expectations when you create dating profiles or when you're talking to people. One of the things that I am extremely clear on is, and it's even in my dating profile, like, do not talk to me about kissing, cuddling, and sleeping together before we've even met. And I am not going to sleep with anyone on the first date. Like, that's just, it's a hard stop for me. And if that's what you're looking for, that's your thing, that's cool. But that's not what I'm looking for. So I'm very clear about that. And there was a gentleman that I had been talking to. He wasn't like local. And we talked back and forth for quite a while. And we were messaging and we were emailing and it was going great, you know, and we hadn't done like a video chat. This was, you know, that was a little bit weird, but, you know, he was coming up to my area and he wanted to get together. So I said, okay, we can meet for coffee or something at a public place. You know, if I don't know someone, sorry, I'm not meeting you anywhere privately, and we'll meet somewhere public. And so that was the agreement, that we would meet for coffee or lunch or whatever, you know. And when he arrived, he was at his hotel. And so he had messaged me and he's like, can we do a change of plans? Can you come to my hotel? And I said, well, is there a restaurant or something underneath, you know? And he's like, no, I figure we could just hang out, you know, just keep it, you know, it's been a busy day, so you can come up and we'll just have lunch in my room. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that. And he got really angry and he like freaked out on me for coming up because his intent was to sleep together, even though I had made it clear that wasn't going to happen. And I was not going up to a hotel room of someone that I've never met in my life. Not something I do. And it became a very verbally abusive situation, and I exited that conversation, and that was done. And so be very careful. And I think something that I learned now is video chat. You know, make sure you know who you're talking to. I have had, you know, there's a couple that, you know, you don't have to verify, some that you do. But I think it's, you know, there's a lot of phishing and catfishing and things like that go on the internet. I don't, like, for me, you know, I post myself without makeup because, you know, you're getting the real deal. I'm not a super high maintenance. I like to take care of myself, but I am who I am, take it or leave it. You know, I love myself and I don't feel the need to, you know, pile on makeup to present myself in a different light than who I am, because I love who I am. And I also have found on these dating websites that the pool is small, and Match, I'm not a fan of Match. So I have found that I have a lot of younger guys, like late 20s, early 30s, who have reached out. And you know, there is a maturity difference between guys and girls, and I found even in my 30s that a lot of the guys in my age group, some of them are still very much, you know, all about partying and, you know, having a good time, and you know, just kind of, not that I don't like to have a good time, but I also would like the possibility of a, you know, a lasting relationship, a family. Those are kind of my things that I want, and some of the dating sites don't. So I had was talking back and forth on Match with a gentleman who was younger than I was, and I let him know. I said, you know that you're younger than me? And he's like, oh yeah. And he seemed really, really nice. And so we were going to go out for dinner. And he started well, if dinner goes well, can we hang out after and, you know, maybe cuddle? Or, and I was like, listen, this is straight up, like, this is not what I'm looking for. You know, like, if you want to have dinner, I'm cool with that, you know, maybe be friends or whatever, you know, but I'm not interested in that. So then, he had told me that he wasn't interested and that I was past my prime. So that chat ended. Again, a lot of these dating sites, what I found is that even when you pay, that people aren't really looking for serious commitment or relationships, even if they say that they are. So it's a real challenge. One that I will give a higher rating to, though, is Bumble. I do like Bumble because Bumble is actually, I think, the only dating site that, people can like your profile, but you have to match with them. The female does. And if the female matches with the male, then she has to initiate the conversation. But if she does not, like let's say you hit something wrong and you don't want to talk to that person, you don't have to answer the conversation. Like you don't have to start the conversation because it's up to the female to start the conversation. And the first, I think, 2 back and forths, it leaves it up to the girl or whoever last left off. And then if they're not interested, it expires and that's done. And you can unmatch from that person. So I do like that. And there is, there is someone that I think is in my range, like in my age group, who we've been having some really great conversations and times. And so you can find people. And another thing that I will add on to that is Bumble, which is great. They also have Bumble BFF and Bumble Business, which I did not know. So if you're not having luck with dating, which was something that was happening to me, I discovered Bumble BFF and I was like, what is this? So it's, you go and you make friends. It's to meet like local people, like-minded people that you want to be friends with and go out and do things with. And so I discovered that because I was about done with dating and I'm like, I can't do this. Like I just want friends. So, Bumble BFF, I met quite a few girls like that. We were talking, about all our interests and things like that. And, doing, having some fun meetups. And I actually met, some wonderful girls. One is from Germany and the other girl is local. Well, they're both local now, but one came from Germany and they're so wonderful and we're making like these great like friendships. And so if you are looking to make friends, if you don't have a lot of friends in your community, I think that that's a great tool to use, because works the same with the dating. You match, and if whoever doesn't start the conversation, it ends, so there's no pressure. And the females that I've met up with and we've had a great time. Like we were like, oh, let's go to lunch and we'll just hang out for an hour, 6 hours later, and, having our, a drink or whatever and having lunch. And then, then other friends started to show up of the people. And so it's been really great. I love that. I haven't tried the Bumble Business, but the Bumble BFF is a great tool to make friends. So of the ones that I've tried, Match and Bumble, and I don't even do Tinder. I'm all set with that. I know what that is. So I'm like, nope. So I would highly recommend Bumble to people to give it a try if you are looking to date. And I seem to find that the people on Bumble, while I've had some that, we'll talk and then it kind of just stops and it doesn't go anywhere, the conversations seem to be a little bit more respectful. And I think people actually read your profile. So, sometimes I'm not so sure because people who have liked me, they're like, I never want kids or, and I'm like, well, nope, bye, so it's a great tool. So I do like that one, but be careful and don't settle, that I think is one of the biggest things that I've learned. Like I used to not value myself and what I brought to the table. And I'd be like, oh, well, I don't, look too great. And, maybe I'll have to settle with someone. And looks are not everything. I'll tell you that right now. But you have to be attracted to somebody. And I think that one of the biggest things that I've learned is that confidence is key. Like if you are confident, people can see that and they can feel that. And that's something that I never used to have. And, it's something that I cherish now because people can see it. Like when I go out and I'm having a good time, and you know, I just, even when I'm out running or jogging or walking or whatever I'm doing, you know, people walk by, and instead of putting your head down, you know, and kind of being like looking at the ground, now it's like, hey, you know, like I don't care, like we're all equal, whatever it is, you know. So be confident, be direct with what you want, and don't settle. And if you feel like, you know, whether you are going out with someone that you meet in a store, or you go out with someone that you meet online, or you have your friends set you up, however you do that, put yourself in situations that you feel comfortable in. And if you don't feel comfortable in those situations, walk away. And if you, like what I found is, what, you know, when I've tried to ignore that little feeling, you know, that's inside going, oh, well, you know, I know that they kind of behaved a certain way, but, you know, maybe it's just, you know, a one-time thing. Don't ignore your gut. Your gut is always right, and it will always lead you in the right direction with everything that you do. And that for me is huge with dating, and I try to really be mindful of that. So those are my kind of dating disasters in my 30s, and some stuff that I've encountered and seen and been a part of with this. It is hard, but again, if I find someone, wonderful. If I don't, that's fine too. You know, just kind of take things as they come, and I think that the right people will come into your life when they're supposed to, if they're supposed to. And you know what? That's what you got to embrace. But always be mindful that happiness starts with you. Your happiness does not depend on somebody else. It does not depend on being in a relationship with somebody else. If you are not happy with yourself, having somebody else come in is not going to make you happy either. Because in real life, we all know that at points everyone disappoints you or gets on your nerves or whatever. You know, so if your happiness is dependent on another person and anything happens, then that happiness is ripped from you. So for me, one of my biggest things is when I start to, you know, feel like, oh, when I started dating, I was like, oh, I want to be with somebody because I just don't want to be lonely. And it was attracting all the wrong. And now I look at it and I'm like, if it's meant to be, it'll be. And, you know, like, I don't need someone to make me happy. Like, I know how to take care of myself. I know how to be happy on my own. And I've noticed that shift in that situation now, that I'm not attracting those people who would speak, you know, disrespectfully to me or look for certain things. And who knows, you know, I'm not getting attached to the idea of being with anybody. You know, I want to take things slow and get to know people. And so far, I think it's working well, and I'm really happy with that, and we'll see where it goes. But, you know, find your happiness within yourself first. And that's where it starts. That's where it goes. And you know what? If the dating websites don't work out, then go on and find you some friends, because friends will always brighten your day. You guys can have a good time, laugh. There's no pressure. And good friends are, I think, one of the greatest blessings life can give to you. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And I wanted to give you some laughs about my terrible history of a couple dating things that have happened, but also be able to give you guys warnings and things to look out for, and make sure that you don't show up for places of people that you don't know, meet people that you don't know in a public place. Protect yourself, know what you're in for, and, you know, talk to people on video chats or things like that, where you can have that face-to-face connection first, because most of the dating sites have that built in now, so that if you get on a video with the person and it doesn't match, then you know what, you don't have to see them again. So that, I think, is important, and communication. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it was funny at times. I hope that you enjoyed it. I was like, I'll share some of my misfortunes with other people and make them laugh. But Also know your worth and know that you're amazing and that good things will happen for you when and if they are supposed to happen. And just take every day as it comes. Look at everything as a blessing, and the right people will come into your life. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and I hope that the rest of your month goes great. And I will catch up with you guys all soon.